was pacing my way to my part-time work as a sales clerk at Sephora. As an 18-year-old senior high student, landing a job at this French cosmetic company is a dream job. A lot of my classmates are green with envy. My best friend Linda had been hanging out in the store. It's a good thing that Jen, my manager, is cool with her being around. Jen is in her late 20s, still young, which is probably the reason why she understands how we schoolgirls feel about this job. It is noticeable that there were fewer people on the street that day, in contrast to the usual busy hustle and bustle during weekdays. It was a holiday that landed on a weekend. Everyone normally goes out on Boxing Day to get some awesome deals, and most of the shops that time were open only in a limited capacity. Our store was open, but only with a skeleton crew. I was not even supposed to come to work that day. But because most of my colleagues were on leave, Jen asked me to come to work to accompany her. She mentioned that we were going to close the store late, so I'll be working overtime. I assured her that I was fine with doing some overtime work. I could also use the extra pay. So I was really happy with that. As I was about to enter the store, a colleague greeted me on her way out. I quickly changed into our black and red uniform and started greeting incoming customers. A few hours after that, I noticed that Jen kept looking outside our store. When I inquired why she seemed restless, she said that for the past few days, she had always noticed that a white van was parked in our parking space. She also added that there were always two people inside, which was creeping her out. I remember smiling at the time, thinking Jen was concerned about nothing. Nonetheless, I could still feel her tension. She seemed concerned, terrified even. The day was uneventful. There were not even that many customers. Jen and I took this opportunity to reorganize our inventory. Time flies when we're done. We didn't realize that it was already 11:45 p.m. I enjoyed the day, but there's one problem. The last bus in our area is at 11:30 p.m., so it's either I take an Uber or just walk home. Jen was relieved when she saw that the white van was gone when we were about to close the store. She was adamant that I take an Uber home and not walk home, even if my house was only 4 blocks away. I promised her that I would take an Uber, and waited for her to take her Uber ride before I booked my own. For some reason, the Uber app has some connectivity issues when I'm booking. I tried several times, but nothing. I scanned the now deserted road leading to my house and weighed my options. I could wait until the connection issues are resolved, which will take God knows how long, or I can just walk for 15 to 20 minutes and I'll be home. The choice seemed obvious, so I started walking. As soon as I reached the first turn from our store, I heard the sound of an engine being started, followed by the beam of a headlight coming from the opposite corner of our store. I thought nothing of it because the pedestrian road that I was walking into was well lighted. Although there's no one else around except me and probably whoever was in that vehicle that just started. It was not a long walk from the store when the vehicle bathed me with its headlight. I kept walking and slowed down a little bit, waiting for the vehicle to pass by. But it just slowed down and kept pace with my walking speed. That's strange, I said to myself. I was thinking that maybe it was one of our neighbors who would soon ask me to hop in. In hindsight, that was so naive of me. I stopped walking and turned toward the vehicle and smiled. I was trying to make out the figures inside, all the while trying to hide my eyes from the high beam headlight. To my absolute horror, I saw the white van that Jane was so afraid of. That quickly wiped the smile off my mouth. I quickly turned toward the road again and restarted walking at a faster pace this time. The van quickly accelerated and slowed when it was directly beside me. My heart was pounding, not knowing what to do or what was happening. Then suddenly, the window on the passenger side rolled down. I almost died right there and then. The man in the passenger seat called out while laughing. I kept walking. I know I shouldn't talk to strangers, but at the same time, I don't want to be rude as well, so I glanced at them. The guy talking was shorter than the one driving. He was smiling from ear to ear, perhaps overly elated by the attention that I gave them. The one driving, on the other hand, barely looked at me. He has a blank facial expression. Although at first glance, I could see the evil intentions in his eyes. That's probably the reason why he didn't look me in the eye, because that would have alarmed their prey. Of course, at the time, I was unaware of that. The passenger said they just want to be friends and I should not be afraid. He said that with a wide grin on his face. He looked at the driver and turned to me again. The driver slowed down even more and took something from the van's compartment. He took one glance at me, but that glance was enough for me to freeze in fear. He had a very cold look on his face that I couldn't explain. Nevertheless, it is something that I fully understand. He's going to kill me. When I noticed that it was a .38 caliber pistol that he had taken out of the compartment, I started sobbing. The passenger saw that I saw the gun and laughed. They told me to get inside and they will take me home. I told them to leave me alone. I wiped the tears from my eyes as I kept walking at an even more hurried pace. My voice cracked from nervousness, and I heard them chuckle when they heard it. I kept walking with my head bowed. I was too afraid to look at them at this point. I was just waiting for the gun to go off. That's why I was so surprised when, all of a sudden, the white van sped past me until the next block and turned right. I could not see them at this point, but I could still hear the engine. I stopped walking, somewhat relieved, but my hands were still shaking. I don't know if they left or were just waiting to pounce on me when I eventually arrived. I don't know what to do. I took my phone and dialed Jen's number. It took me a while because I couldn't control my hands. As soon as I said, "Hello," I immediately saw the van backing up and maneuvering in my direction. Jen was on the other line, but I couldn't make out what she was saying. I just told her to call the police because the white van is after me. I ran and made a sharp turn in the dark area. I was praying that the two guys in the white van did not notice me. I kept running and hid beside the trash bin. I could hear the van making several passes on the road. I was sobbing silently during this time. It seems that the night will be very long for me until I hear the sound of the police siren from a distance. The white van made one final pass near my location and sped away from the area. My phone rang after a few minutes. It was Jen. She told me to hide and the police were coming. Fortunately for me, she heard my call earlier and immediately called the police. She figured I was still near the store since my house is nearby. Suffice it to say that the police found me hiding behind the trash can in the dark alley with Jen's help. I was very grateful to Jen that night. Those creeps are close to finding my hiding spot. They only left because they heard the police. A few days after this, there were rumors that a teenager was kidnapped by two guys in a white van in the next town. It was all over the tabloids and everyone in our neighborhood was talking about it. I heard that she was not even the first. There were also several missing women in the other towns before ours.